Is there any hope for Megumi to have a character redemption arc? And if so, what could it look like after this arc has played out? Recently, I was watching a video by Maskman about Griffith, and I know that is a crazy comparison to start this video of, and I know a lot of you probably sat there going, yo, fucking relax there, Big Chief. But I'm not saying they're the exact same character, but I am saying that the comparisons can be drawn, and considering the story that Gege has told so far, it's very, very possible that something like similar to what Griffith had done could potentially arise. Not quite the same severity, but more so along the lines of, I'm going to choose to sacrifice everyone in exchange for power.
Sometimes you got to close the door to open a window.
I want to point out before we get into this, I'm not saying that these two characters are the exact same. I know there's a lot of nuanced discussion that happens between Megumi and also Griffith. They are morally grey characters. Eventually, Griffith ends up just being straight up bad guy, but prior to everything, to the Eclipse, he's a very morally grey character. He does a lot, but the means that he goes around doing these kind of things to get to this ultimately good goal, yikes, you know what I'm saying? But I want to focus on sort of the parallels and comparisons a little bit here, because Griffith obviously uses a lot of people to get to the point that he wants to be at, and that is to basically be royalty, have his own castle, and he's basically prepared to do whatever the fuck it takes to do so. But then you switch over to Megumi in Jujutsu Kaisen, and his entire goal within the series is to basically save Sumiki. That is the entire thing that happens within this series, like literally from day one. I mean, it's an early plot point in the original seasons here, where Megumi is trying to save her, and he ends up coming across the bridge, which apparently he thinks might have ended up giving her the curse that put her in the coma, and it's all sort of, but obviously we later on learn that is Kajaku and it's all just orchestrated events. But I want to point your attention to chapter 143 here, because there is a conversation that happens between Megumi and Yuji, where Megumi is just kind of carrying on like normal, but Yuji is still reeling after the events of Shibuya and says, don't act like everything is normal, don't act like nothing happened. And then he has thoughts saying, sorry, but I can't just die yet, with even Yuta chiming in saying he resists, but I bet he's unsure of whether he deserves to live or die. And obviously this chapter seems a lot more focused on Yuji, but I also think now in retrospect, considering everything that happens, that this chapter in particular is very, very specific to both Megumi and Yuji, because Yuji then goes on to scream saying, I killed people, lots of people died because of him, and Megumi stops him in his tracks and he says, it's our fault. Don't be selfish and give up all alone. We aren't heroes fighting for justice. We're Jujutsu sorcerers. No one can ever truly judge us, so we must continually prove our worth of our existence. And we don't have the luxury of thinking about ourselves. We've just got to save people. And these words are even further hammered home with the most recent chapter, with Yuji saying, I don't know whether humans are good or bad ultimately. I don't know what is happening, to be honest with you. And I don't know whether to tell if someone is good or bad. I don't know how to tell this, but chapter 243 sort of really fucking hammers that home now that this chapter is dropped. He literally says, you know, humans aren't tools. We aren't born with any set role, which is to say, I don't know. I don't know whether humans are fundamentally good or evil. And this, in chapter 143, is something that Yuji struggles with immensely. Now, at this time, Megumi seems to be a sort of steadfast beacon of hope for Yuji. And he even says that as long as I'm around, you will suffer, to Megumi. And again, those words could not have been more true. If Yuji had died here and now, Megumi would have never been taken over. Sumiko wouldn't have been killed. Gojo wouldn't have been killed. All of these people would have continued on living if Yuji had died in Shibuya or whatever. But Megumi says to him, start by saving me, Itadori. And it's those words here, right on the final page. He says, Sumiki is ensnared in the games, in the Cullen games, basically. So I'm begging you, Itadori, I need your strength. But then we fast forward a couple more chapters, not to 265, but to more recent chapters where Yuji finally makes contact with Megumi's soul after multiple people have now sacrificed their lives in trying to free Megumi from the clutches of Sukuna. He basically says, I can't do it. I can't keep going. I can't do this. I can't continue on. And I think this is where the comparisons for both Megumi and Griffith kind of kick in a little bit here, because obviously Griffith was using any sort of means to attain his goals, and obviously those were morally grey. Megumi is stated multiple times, and he's said it multiple times throughout the series, they are essentially morally grey, and in chapter 265, Yuji hammers that home even further. Something that I want to point out is that Yuji now has finally made contact with him. He tells Megumi to wake the fuck up, like, it's time to get up, we need to fucking fight here, we can do this, we can win, but we need you to get up. And Megumi's response to this cry, basically this shouting of help here, is, I haven't got nothing more to give. He just says, that's enough, I've had enough. Now, the position of these characters is reminiscent very, very much of Guts and Griffith. I know these are crazy comparisons to make, because obviously two different stories, but even the position that Megumi is in, on his knees, sort of basically ready to give up, with a man who was stood in front of him, covered in blood, scars, rage and anger, ready to tear down Sukuna if he could, in exchange to save him. Megumi seems like he's ready to just give up, and he even says that, I've had enough. He says, no more, I don't want to do this anymore. And he even says any will to live had already been extinguished within Megumi Fushiguro's soul. And I think these are the points here that I think are ultimately going to end up putting Megumi on a sort of villain's path. I think ultimately when we see the fall of Sukuna, potentially however that plays out in the physical world or in this sort of soul realm that they're in right now with Yuji and Sukuna, I think Megumi is going to come back and potentially activate the merger in a way that will shock everyone. I've talked about this on this channel multiple times now, but the character that Megumi is, he was fighting for one thing, and he'd done a lot of shit to get to that one thing, which was his sister. But now everything that he has fought for, everything that had spurred him on, every action that he'd taken, no matter how good or bad, now was just mute. It was just mute. He not only had he watched his own hands kill his sister in basically driving the passenger seat in his own body, he also finally got to free his sister and then find out that she wasn't actually his sister. And these events are all just sort of compiling, and then from there on he's kind of just a spectator to his own body, the further seat in the cinema, watching the big screen of Sukuna controlling his body, doing whatever the fuck he wants for well over 2 months now, and then slaughtering his father figure, his older brother figure, killing multiple sorcerers, cutting Yuta in half, Maki. He's done a lot of shit, and he's hurt a lot of fucking people while inside Megumi's body. And I think this will eventually lead Megumi to the path of no more Jujutsu sorcerers, no more, like, it ends with him. And I think if he does get the body back, I can genuinely see him activating the merger and using the merger as an attempt to basically get rid of all Jujutsu sorcery. I don't know, the comparisons are a bit maybe shaky, but I would like to know your thoughts in the comments down below, because again, I can't help but notice the similarities. Obviously, I know that the actions that Griffith and Megumi taken are very, very different, but the goals and the character parallels are quite similar when you really look down on it. And obviously, seinen, shonen, demographics, the stories are told are definitely a lot different. Definitely a lot different. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted and don't get it misconstrued. I'm not saying that these two are the exact same character, but I'm saying that there is definitely a parallel between everyone that's going on within the story. I mean, even Yuji himself fighting so ruthlessly and always having the potential to be taken over by a potential beast of darkness, and in this story that would be Sukuna. He's constantly fighting against this, and we also know that he's filled with rage. He's got some of the best rage moments that have come within the story. So yeah, I wanted to get on here and talk about this. There's a lot of talk going on about Megumi and about what happens with him and how he's going to be brought back into the story, and I think Gege is cooking something beautiful for us. I mean, a lot of the hopefuls want to see a Megumi come back and join hands with Yuji and eventually just beat the piss out of Sukuna, but honestly, I don't think that's the story that Gege is telling us here. I think if you've come this far in the story, 265 chapters, I think you've realized one thing, and that is that there is no really happy endings within this story, and even when there is small happy endings, it's at the cost of fucking everything. I mean, the only prime example that I can give you of someone getting a happy ending within the series and getting out with their life is Kamo Noritoshi, and he ended up losing everything. I mean, his clan was taken over by fucking Kenjaku. So he ended up losing everything. He paid a big price just to get away with his life and his family's life within this series. He lost everything, essentially. And that is the same route that seems to be foreshadowed for everyone. You have to lose everything to gain everything in exchange for this. I mean, Sukuna even says something very, very similar in Shibuya. You should have burnt everything to ascend there to aspire to the heights of Gojo Satoru. You shouldn't have been concerning yourself with everyone else or earthly desires, essentially. And Yuta Rokotsu did something very, very similar recently. He threw away his humanity in exchange for taking over Gojo's body, and obviously this elated Sukuna. There's a lot going on and there's a lot of parallels, and I think by the end of the series, as the series draws closer to an end, I think I would like to get on and have a more deeper dive and a more deeper discussion about it, if I'm honest. Anyways, that is everything from me. As always, I appreciate you all watching. Let me know what you think of that kind of crackpot, crazy conspiracy theory. I do ultimately believe that Megumi potentially might end up being the final villain here, and his words of "save me, Yuji Itadori" will more than likely be a lot more brutal than what we've been led to believe here. But yeah, I know the comparisons between Megumi and Griffith are a little bit crazy, but as I've said, I would like to see at the end of the series how true those kind of match up. There's just parallels that I was just noticing throughout this, and even just on little rereads of like bits of the Eclipse, I can't help but notice that there is parallels here. And we know Gege is a big fan of other mangaka, just like us. He really is just like us, for real, for real. He's a big fan of Togashi, as am I, obviously. Anyway, yeah, that's everything from me. Let me know what you think of the video in the comments down below. Also, I did something a little bit different for this video. I've been trying something different. This is a small announcement not related to the video, so if you don't want to listen to this, that's absolutely fine. But I've been trying something recently. I made a video a couple of days ago talking about the future of JJK in this channel, and also I also wanted to make another video. I forgot to mention it in that one, but I wanted to talk about how the videos are going to be changing because obviously my daughter is due to be born within November, which is crazy. It's just over 2 months away. Terrifying. Holy moly, I'm very, very scared. I'm fucking shitting my pants, but like it's not far along now. Like 5th of November is when she is due. But I want to say that the video qualities might be changing. They might be not quite as flashy, and they might not be quite as well scripted as what I would have liked to have been, because obviously time is just rough when you have a newborn baby, and obviously I've not yet experienced that, but there's going to be a lot of changes going on. But yeah, I just wanted to say I tried something different with this video of just getting on and just letting the thoughts flow and letting the yap flow. So if you're fucking with these yap sessions here, that'll be nice. Let me know in the comments down below, and as always, yeah, I will catch you guys all in the fucking next one. Much fucking love, big fucking kisses, peace.
You're the sunshine on my mind. We're burning through the city of light.